Hello, everybody. I'm just going to go by Michelle, Judith Ann Michelle. You'll find me on Twitter at SportsXMichelle. I am very pleased to host the first episode of Neutral Court for In the Zone. The show is brand new, so we're kind of a work in progress. So anyone that's watching, if you have any ideas or suggestions, feel free. It's a debate show. We have a topic and we have two wonderful guests that are going to share their opinions and try to convince me and our audience to maybe jump over to their side, or maybe I will just end up staying in the neutral court, which is where I tend to reside when people have good thoughts and good opinions and back them up. So I'm going to start with Jenna, our first guest. Jenna Lemoncelli, did I say that correctly?
Yes, actually, it's just Lemoncelli.
Oh, Lemoncelli. Okay, sorry about that. I probably had Lemoncelli over in Italy or something. So, okay, Lemoncelli. Jenna, can you introduce yourself? You'll do better than I will with introducing yourself and tell the audience why you're here, what your background is in sports, and whatever you want to share.
Right. Well, thank you for having me on. You're great. And this is such a great idea. I love it. So cool. So shout outs to In the Zone and Greg and everyone over there. But yeah, I have been working in the digital content creation space, doing entertainment and sports coverage for about 5 to 6 years now. I actually started out in entertainment celebrities. So kind of migrated over as we see. I think Jackson would agree with this point that all of the leagues are just merging into pop culture and fashion and all that good stuff. So I do that. And I also host for the NBA's G League affiliate for the New York Knicks, the Westchester Knicks. So I kind of just have my hand in a few different things, creating content, talking to athletes, telling their stories, including the NFL. But right now I'm here for the NBA. So yeah.
There's a little bit of bias over there, Jackson. Thank you so much, Jenna, for introducing yourself and also for agreeing to be here to take the side of the NBA, that the NBA is a better tradition to watch the NBA games on Christmas Day than the Thanksgiving games, the NFL. I'm going to introduce our other guest, our second guest, Jackson. I'll let you introduce yourself and share a little bit about you. And again, I think you'll be better at it than I will. So go ahead.
So I'm Jackson. I'm a recent Rutgers graduate. I've been with In the Zone for about 14 months. I actually started back when it was called Double G Sports, and I covered Rutgers. I wrote a little bit about the Yankees. I covered Rutgers football, basketball, met a lot of the great student athletes who were my peers. And now I'm just an old washed up graduate there. Most of them still get to play. But now I'm covering the Giants for Sports Illustrated. I do a little additional freelance work, some video work. I've directed a couple, documentaries for classes. I've covered high school sports. I've covered college sports, Rutgers, Boston College. I've covered horse racing, and now I cover the NFL, and I'm looking to get into plenty more things. And Jenna's absolutely correct. If you want to cover sports, you got to be able to cover pop culture at this point too.
Well, I thought the same thing. And when Jenna brought up that sports, I mean, I know the NFL is filed as an entertainment company, right? So, and they do certainly entertain us, but I don't know about, there is one thing before I let Jenna have the floor, one thing I just want to bring up, opinions, what are they? So opinions are not facts. Opinions are exactly that. They are what someone thinks or feels. And in my day job, I am a second grade teacher. So one thing I teach is writing, and I share with my students the 3 different types of writing that we learn early on. So there are narratives, which is, a story, beginning, middle, and end. And then there are informational texts, and then there are opinions. So tonight we're going to go over the opinions. The best opinions are formed with great evidence. And so we all know about the fake news or what's out there. So there's a lot to read. I did do my homework a little bit, but it's not really my place to talk. It's my place to moderate. I went to Wikipedia, my great source, which I know no professor would ever want to see on a paper, but there is a lot of information about the NBA association games, Christmas games, and then also the traditional Thanksgiving games. So I have an idea in my mind of what I want to see shared, but also will let you feel free, and so I'll start off with just giving Jenna an opportunity to share an introduction on why she thinks. I mean, we do know she works with basketball. So basketball, is it something that's, something she likes? Is it basketball? Is it the NBA? What is her personal history? And what about the history of the games? Then I'll go into any special games, any special Christmas memories that she might have, but I'll break that out because I'll let Jackson talk about the introduction. He'll introduce the reasons he supports Thanksgiving as the better tradition in the NFL and share his personal history, whether he's a Giant fan or a Cowboy fan or any fan, and if he's got any personal bias that might come in. Special games that he remembers. I do know I did look and see, I don't know, Emmitt Smith threw away there were turkey legs awarded and stuff like that. I don't know everything there is to know. There's a lot to know, but I will let my guests go on and share, and then I'll just basically give them an opportunity to conclude and rebut if there's something that they completely disagree with. So Jenna, I'll start with you. How strongly do you feel that the NBA is the better, why is it better than NFL on Thanksgiving? What is it that you like about it and possibly dislike about the NFL games or anything like that? What would you go with as your first opening statement?
Okay, wait, real quick. Is this my full argument? Like, how much time do or is this just the first question?
No, this is just okay. So you'll be able to introduce and then we'll go on. I'll set a timer. I'm hoping to give you 3.
Perfect. Okay.
So an introduction and then 3, and then your chance to, like if you hear Jackson say something, it won't be combative. It will be professional and polite, hopefully. So we'll see how it goes. But if there's something that, I just ask that when you share, I will just segue in by saying thank you. So when it's Jackson's turn, so feel free to talk and I'll let you know when it's Jackson's turn.
Totally. I mean, the first question is why I believe that
introduction,
Yeah.
The reason I feel this way is just a general introduction, nothing specific yet, just
Perfect.
Generally, why do you like the NBA better?
Perfect. Well, I mean, I could be here for hours, but I like the NBA better because it's a blanket statement really quick. It's the better league. And that goes down from its commissioner to how the freedom that they give their players to speak on their own and to really kind of let their own brands flourish. That's another thing in its own. Not to mention they're innovative. They're the most innovative sports league out there right now. And that's on and off the floor, from social justice, advocation, to the game itself, to its uniforms, to its protocols and things like that. And we don't need to go over the NFL and that whole debacle on how they handled a lot of things in recent history. But yeah, I mean, it's just in my opinion, it's the best league also because it has the most stars, in my opinion. They all have their own brands, their own shoes, they're on the cover of GQ, this and that. And yes, you could argue that NFL players are as well, but the NBA stars and stardom surpasses the NFL completely.
So Jenna, let me just interject real fast before I hand it over to Jackson. So with regard to Christmas Day in particular, okay, because we have the 5 games on Christmas Day, and I hear what you're saying, at least I think I hear you say overall, and this may be part 2 of, neutral court. We may have to meet again to talk about which is the better league, okay, because Jenna seems to think that by far the NBA gives their players freedom to talk, and just overall, she even mentions the commissioner. So there's a dig there for the NFL commissioner. But Jackson, this particular show, and Jenna, this particular show, I just want to pull it into talking specifically about Christmas Day, the NBA games. So I know the NBA games, they don't necessarily have the same teams playing. Jackson, would you talk then about the NFL and why do you think, if you want to comment on what Jenna said about the league, and that's fine, but as far as the NFL having a better tradition for Thanksgiving versus Christmas Day for the NBA, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the first point is very simple. You just look at the viewership. There's 30.3 million people that watched the Dallas Cowboys get whipped by the Washington football team this year. And that's a wonderful thing. When that many people can watch the Dallas Cowboys get destroyed, I don't really know how, I don't even think LeBron James can top that as far as entertainment, as far as just reasons to celebrate. It's a very special thing. And they've gotten to see it 2 years in a row. Last year, they got whipped by the Bills. And, 2 years before that, the Cowboys won 2 games. And then there's a very specific sect of people in America that celebrate that. So I would say it's a polarizing day is Thanksgiving. Obviously, there's the Detroit Lions that play in the earlier game. And that's, a nice little appetizer because people, get to see the Lions get whipped pretty much every single year. And there's not much to celebrate there. But when the Cowboys come on, it is a big moment. It is a big moment. There's millions of people tuned in. And one way or another, people are going to have something to celebrate. And just the fact that the last 2 years, the majority of Americans have had something to celebrate by watching the Dallas Cowboys get it handed to them. It puts a smile on a lot of people's face, and that's what people need on Thanksgiving, especially on a Thanksgiving where a lot of people can't spend it with their families because we're in a pandemic. But at least people can go and watch the Cowboys get whipped. Obviously, this year's NBA Christmas games haven't been played yet, and we'll see what happens because it's going to be right around the start of the season. And LeBron James ain't too happy about it. He actually had to cancel a family vacation because the NBA season decided to start so early this year. And
let me get my
we'll
violin.
see if he's wishing he's on the beaches in Miami when he's out there on the court. And
Well, I love to hear the different thoughts, because one about the Cowboys, and just I love to watch the Cowboys, and I tend to agree with you no matter what. I love to watch football on Thanksgiving. I've heard it said that football or Thanksgiving is an adult holiday, whereas Christmas is for children. Now, I'm not saying that that's my opinion. I've heard that said, and I've heard people argue that Thanksgiving is great, football is great, adults go and watch football. Whereas if you're watching basketball, Jenna, on Christmas Day, which a lot of people do celebrate Christmas with their families. So are they really watching basketball? Now, I will say one thing, my son is a huge basketball fan. And we've started to look forward to. So the NBA games have been played on Christmas Day since 1946, I'm pretty sure, 1947, and the NFL since way back in the day. The NFL has been around longer. But Jenna argued that the NBA is a better league overall. Is the NFL just kind of like making you yawn, Jenna? Is basketball just that much more exciting? And what about the thought about where Jackson said, you're on Thanksgiving, you're watching the same teams, right? It's a tradition. Every year you're going to see Dallas, whether you like Dallas or not, you look forward to them play, or look forward to seeing them play. Same thing with the Lions. Whereas the NBA, you have different games and some would argue better games. What are your thoughts on the specific games and the way the NBA might line it up? And about family, are they able to sit and enjoy the games, or does that take away from a holiday?
100%. I think families can sit and enjoy the game, either whether it's, I know particularly with my family, we're playing it in the background, we're watching here and there, we're doing different things. So I think it's totally a family thing. And not to mention the kids can watch it, everyone can watch it. They love it, whether it's they like to see the entertainment, anything. And the different matchups, I get what Jackson is saying about the tradition, totally great. But the fact that the NBA has different matchups rolling out every single year, it's their marquee matchups. Marquee means that they are taking the best teams and giving them that primetime slot to play. So we're seeing the guys we want to see. We're seeing the teams that are great and that are exciting, and the marquee matchups are even better. And the matchups this year, I mean, Warriors at Bucks, Pelicans at Heat, Nets at Celtics, Mavs at Lakers, Clippers at Nuggets. We're all seeing specifically in 2020, this coming Christmas, these players come back from injury. We're seeing guys that we haven't seen in a whole season because they haven't played because of injury. I mean, not just bench warmers or anything else. We're seeing Steph Curry come back. We're seeing Kevin Durant, the faces of the league. If anything, if I'm only arguing for this Christmas, it's that people need to tune into the NBA because it is a year that we haven't seen, especially with COVID-19. I mean, the Lakers are getting 71 days in between their off season. It's out of control, but this is the world we live in. And there's just so much to see, especially this Christmas.
So, Jackson, do you watch the NBA on Christmas Day?
Oh, of course. I know the Knicks have gotten the Christmas treatment many of the last couple of years, and it's been pretty painful. I'm not a Knicks fan. When I go to see my family, they're all Knicks fan, and it's, maybe that messes with my perspective because it's always a pretty miserable moment whenever the Knicks play on Christmas Day. But I look at this year's Christmas slate. We got Pelicans and the Heat. Zion against the Heat. That's That's basically what I see when I see Pelicans versus Heat. I see Zion versus the Heat, and that's the opening game, and then we got Warriors Bucks. Again, the Warriors were pretty bad last season, and now they got James Wiseman in the draft, and they got Steph back, but Klay Thompson's not playing, and the Bucks. If the Warriors are what they used to be, it could be an interesting game, but I see that being a pretty big lopsided Bucks win. Nets Celtics, that's a game I look at and I see the Nets. Obviously they're going to be a big draw this year because of the superstars. But in a way, I also see that game as kind of what's wrong with the NBA, because you got the Brooklyn Nets, and what do they got? They got Kevin Durant, who has this reputation of bouncing from team to team, chasing rings. And this is his third team, and he's going up against the Celtics, who are a pretty wholesome team, but they just they're the most famous team in the NBA in NBA history. They're the kind of the Cowboys of the NBA. But they haven't been able to get the job done. So it's not like the Celtics are at their prime. And then, you also got Kyrie, who, this is another thing in the NBA, is Kyrie said he's not going to talk to media this year. And that's not good for folks like you and me, Jenna. And he's obviously going to get, the Christmas treatment. But, it is a very unique year for the NBA. We got Mavericks, Lakers. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Obviously, Luka Doncic versus LeBron James. Who, that could be the battle between maybe the greatest player of all time versus an up and coming great in Luka Doncic. And then Clippers Nuggets, the second team in Los Angeles versus a small market team on ESPN. So this year's slate is a very important slate, just given everything the country and the world has gone through. And even then, they didn't really give us the marquee matchups. They didn't give us Lakers Clippers. They didn't give us the Warriors versus anyone else in the Big in the West. They didn't give us Nets Celtics, I guess, is the two big teams in the East this year. I would have preferred to see one of those teams take on the Bucks rather than the Warriors take on the Bucks. But like I said, we'll see how these games pan out. It's obviously they have more games. They have 5 versus the NFL only has 3 maximum. They only had 2 this year because of COVID. So we'll see what they have to offer. But these aren't the big marquee matchups, I think, in the NBA, and I think that's what they really needed this year. Especially with they
just interject, Jackson, and I don't mean to be rude, only because I just want to explain that I was actually Googling Kyrie Irving and getting his not talking to the media and this whole thing, and I think it's interesting how the players might get fined for that, and I don't know if that would take away on Christmas Day. You would think, like, I don't really know how that's going to go, but I need to do my homework there, and when I do this write-up to just see thoughts on that. It bothers me sometimes, although I do understand the media can be, and that could be, again, another topic. One thing I think we're finding out today during tonight's show are future topics, and maybe things we'll talk about in the future. Should a player refuse to talk to the media? That could be an interesting discussion. And also, the actual specific matchup. Are they games that, does it even matter though, Jenna? Does it even matter who's playing? I know you talk about the marquee matchups, and I know that for some people that I know that like the NBA, they could care less who's playing. They just want to see basketball, whereas other people are actually paying attention to the specific games. The NFL, and I'll get back to Jackson after you speak, Jenna. The NFL, I think it's a big thing, and Jenna, I'd like to hear your comeback, if you will. How do you argue Jackson's point that every year we know who's playing in the NFL, and we get to look forward to those, like with the NBA, do we know who's playing? Do we not know who's playing? Do we care who's playing? Whereas on Thanksgiving Day, we're going to see the Cowboys. We could love them or we could hate them, but we're going to see them. How do you respond to that? Does it matter that the NBA changes? I understand what you're saying about marquee, but would it be better if they had specific, teams that were up against one another?
I don't think it would be better if they had specific teams, just because the NBA changes so much between trades and free agency and things like that. That's why it's such a big event. So I don't think that they need to adopt the traditional schedule that the NFL has, but I think it hurts the NFL in ways, only because if it's, like you guys pointed out, the Cowboys every year, if you're not a Cowboys fan, you're really not watching the NFL, unless, of course, the game has changed a little bit, and this could be another topic too someday, but sports betting, even if you're not a Cowboys fan, you're sports betting or doing different things like that. And
Not
that's
on the
a whole other,
Cowboys. Sorry.
right? Right? No, amen, girl.
They don't cover, but anyways, I'm just kidding.
Right? But that's a whole other beast in itself. But yeah, I mean, I think that I just personally think that the viewership is just better on the NBA side, just because, again, even if you're not going to watch a specific game or a certain matchup, you're still seeing how many stars that day. And not to mention with the NBA also, they're really big on debuting Christmas sneakers, Christmas different things, shoes that they may be dropping that are coming out. So there's also that aspect to it where you're bringing in a whole new audience, whether it's,
So you see it as more of a marketing and opportunity. What about the commercial, something like that? I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Exactly.
Why am I thinking of Super Bowl commercial? That's another topic there. Super Bowl commercials. I'm remembering LeBron with his spray. And I don't even remember what it was. I think it was a hashtag or something, but I just remember LeBron, and I'm pretty sure it was during the Super Bowl, but I just remember. So it's interesting. I never thought about commercials in NBA games, but it's something I don't know about. So it's maybe something to look into. I do see the Cowboys. I'm looking at an article here. I'm actually looking at sportingnews.com. So it says, if it seems like the Cowboys play every Thanksgiving, it's because they do. And there's a whole history as to why they do. Why do the Cowboys always play on Thanksgiving? The Cowboys tradition of playing on Thanksgiving started, and I am reading, by the way, I don't have this memorized. So anybody that's watching, this is all new to me. The Cowboys tradition of playing on Thanksgiving started when then General Manager Tex Schramm signed up for the holiday game in 1966. Schramm sought more national publicity and saw Thanksgiving as a way to boost national attention. Do you think he succeeded, Jackson, in boosting national attention to the team? Do you think that the Cowboys are actually America's team and it's America's team that should be playing on Thanksgiving? I know you don't like them, but do you think that they draw a wide viewership?
Oh yeah, when Schramm signed that deal, he pretty much robbed the entire league blind. And he gave the Cowboys a basket of riches because not only that, but the America's team thing was just this marketing slogan he came up with that took off, and then that combined with the Thanksgiving thing it just took off into this powerhouse of entertainment.
There are teams that seem like doesn't even matter if they win, that they still have that fellowship, and I'm not saying, I think, what are they, win 3? I think they're at the bottom of the Giants and
well, they're in last place. I mean, they're the worst team in their division, and even then, 30.3 million people watched the game this year, right. And they weren't even playing a good team. So that to that point, I would say Jenna's almost right in that way. Is that having those same fixed matchups every year? I mean, the Lions are almost never must-see TV. The Cowboys, just not based on the fact that they're good, are going to get the matchup every year, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing if they're playing in a meaningful game, if they're playing in a meaningless game. And the NFL does allot themselves that one extra game at the primetime slot, which is not a tradition. They only started doing that a couple of years ago, and that didn't even happen this year. And that's usually a big marquee game, and it was supposed to be this year.
Right, to have something to do after dinner.
Yeah, and with the Steelers and the Ravens. Now with the NBA, Jenna's right. It's an individual-driven league, not a team-driven league. So they give themselves that flexibility to put their biggest stars in on Christmas, but. I don't, this year in particular, like I was saying, I don't really think they did that. I don't think I don't think these are marquee matchups. I think, the Lakers and the Clippers, they play each other 2 days before Christmas. Why not just save that one for Christmas? Why not have the Lakers play the Celtics on Christmas? That's, of course, a big matchup. Why not have the Nets take on the Bucks? Those are going to be the two biggest teams in the East this year. And it's just a mismatched schedule this year. And I think they missed a huge opportunity because they do have a lot of big stars on the same teams this year that they could have put together. And it's something the NFL can't do every year, only with one game. And the NBA, I don't really think they did it this year. What do you think of this year's Christmas Day games, Jenna? What do you think of them?
Well, before you talk about the actual specific games, I just want to bring up COVID. And I don't want to bring up anything sad, but I know we haven't had fans at games and things like that. And one thing, and while you're answering Jackson's questions about the specific games, do you think that having the games will boost spirits? There's no nets on all over the country, right? People are missing the opportunity to actually play. So while the college games are going on, which I'm very grateful for, and the NBA games are going on, some people that just want to go out and play basketball, if they can't afford to put a net and, in their yard, they live in apartments in the city or whatever, they can't play the game. Does it help? Does it hurt? And again, and speak to Jackson's question of the specific games, Jenna.
Yeah, definitely. I think either way, it does lift spirits, just because there's something to watch, there's something to do, there's something to bond over, no matter what, with someone, whether you're on Twitter and you're joining the conversation, whether it's whatever you're watching. But I definitely think it lifts spirits 100%. Just to see your favorite stars on that day, and segueing into answering you, Jackson, I do agree with you that I don't know if it was COVID related or whatever to the reason why they're not playing a certain schedule, but I think it could be better. I completely agree with you on that, because I could see it right now. I mean, Lakers Clippers would have been better. And honestly, just a bunch of different matchups. I don't mind Nets at Celtics, but yeah, I think they could have done so much, and I don't know why they didn't. So it's interesting that they flip-flopped it. Like you said, on the 22nd, they're starting with more of a better matchup there. And what they did do, though, is get all of their stars really out there that they could, which is great, but on an individual standpoint. But again, matchups like that, and again, you have to think about this too, and I don't know, this isn't insider information or anything, but maybe just because of the unfair offseason for the Heat and the Lakers, maybe they did it this way on purpose. I don't really know exactly how they went about this, whether it's a travel thing, I don't know where they're playing, or things like that. But there's just, again, it's the unknown this year, which makes everything so interesting. And unfortunately, the NFL was hit with a lot more COVID consequences, I'll say, I guess, than the NBA. But you're also seeing the positive tests come up within the NBA too. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully, I did see that the commissioner said they were going to go as planned. So we'll see.
They might have some fans too, right? If I'm not mistaken, that there may be some 25%. It's like you said, everything is changing. And I don't know if, Jackson, do you agree that having the games, sports in general, lifts spirits during this particular year where we have had such chaotic and I want to use the word crazy, but I feel like it's been a somewhat crazy year for sports with shutdowns and no fans. I miss the fans. Do you think that it boosts spirits by having those games on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving?
Not the spirits of Cowboys fans, and that's not a bad thing. But with these games, I you can't really go wrong with big NBA.
Somebody who went to Rutgers, I'm sorry, but I'm just
Right.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm in the neutral zone over here, or the neutral court, so I'm not saying anything. But so it's okay. So go ahead. So what was that?
Well, thank goodness. I'm very grateful Rutgers doesn't play on Thanksgiving, so I have that going for me. But with the NBA, the NBA is the league that like she said, suffered the most from the COVID shutdowns. They were right in the tail. You could argue hockey did.
They were actually walking off the fields, right?
Yeah, you could argue. And then
they're walking off the court. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And basketball in general, the NCAA tournament was canceled. So to see basketball on Christmas, that's pretty meaningful. Obviously, football wasn't affected too badly by the pandemic this year. They were still able to get everything done on schedule for the most part. It's just kind of a given. But in sports in general wasn't really given this holiday season, especially now that cases are going back up. So it is very important to America, and basketball is a very global sport, so everyone's going to be tuning in.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your point.
I was just saying, in this case, I think football is the bigger draw. It means more to more people, but to the NBA's credit, it will mean more to basketball fans to get to watch their games on Christmas, because it wasn't a given. They were talking about starting the season in January, and there would have had to been an entire Christmas without it. So, it wasn't to everyone's convenience. It might even result in, less than stellar play when the game times come around, just because they haven't had a lot of time to prepare. But credit to them for just getting it off, because it definitely was anything but guaranteed for this year.
And we still, we never know from day to day. One thing I think we've all learned is anything can happen. I do want to thank both of you, and I am going to let Jenna and also Jackson just wind down and give their thoughts on, this isn't something that is a heated debate. I mean, it's something that valid points as far as I'm concerned. Both are wonderful. I mean, to have sports, it was, Nelson Mandela said, sports has the power to change the world. And I believe that is true. I think just like music, sports and music, without sports, I mean, there was just, it just felt strange. And I'm very happy to see, I'll watch the NBA games. I watch the NFL games. I'll watch whatever games are on, to be honest with you. So if there's games on, I do hope the fans are able to enjoy them. So Jenna, I will let you, I think in the future, I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to have both of you back on. And I think that we might, maybe have some other topics that will allow you to have a more passionate debate, because I could see that would be fun and something that both of you, I think, would be really good at. So this one we were kind of like, maybe walking in and a little bit nice to, and not that we won't be nice, but I think it could get more fun and more animated. Jenna, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you wind up or wind down, wrap up what you want to say about the NBA, the league, the games itself, and also share with the audience where they can find you so that they can follow you on social media and any other website or channels that you want them to visit.
Yes, absolutely. Just tune in on Christmas Day. It's super special. It's super fun. And it's more fun than anything. No one is looking to it's not a major die-hard game that you need to win that day. It's really a time to just have fun, play a good rival and get on the floor, show your new shoes, promote your brand, whatever you do these days. And it's just a good bonding experience with your family. It's just uplifting. It brings joy. And the league, to Jackson's point too, and thank you for complimenting the NBA on the fact that they pulled off the bubble in such a weird, there's never been a bubble. Like but let's just celebrate the league. We're happy to have sports on Christmas Day. And overall with this year, let's just end it on a positive note in that case. And you guys can find me at Jenna Lemoncelli, just full name, look me up, 2 N's, 2 L's, and follow me.
Make sure that follow at Jenna Lemoncelli. See, that's why I let her introduce. Jackson, we're going to let you have the last word as far as the topic goes, and just wrap up why you think the NFL is a better tradition, but also why you may tune in this year to watch the NBA games on Christmas Day, and share with people where they can find you and what you'd like them to know.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching a couple of these games on Christmas. Obviously, it's 10 hours of basketball. I don't know if I'll be tuned in for the whole thing, but I'll definitely have the Lakers game on. I'll definitely have the Nets game on, just because I got to see, if Kyrie can back it up if he wants to let his speak for itself. All right, it starts on Christmas then, again, like I said, the NFL, you just look at the numbers, bigger draw to more people. So, it's hard to argue with that. And then again, you can follow me on Twitter at JacksonBHT. That's JacksonBHT on Twitter. And, the Giants are in a playoff push. So if you want to see some good Giants coverage, tune in.
Okay. All right. Thank you both for being here. Thanks to In the Zone for having us. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsXMichelle. And I do a legal segment with Brian Panish on SportsX Radio. So we talk about sports law topics. So that might be something that we bring into this show as well. So there's always something going on in the world of sports, at least hopefully, right? So hopefully I know with betting, I know, Jenna, that might be something else to talk about too. Not specific, but just overall, how has that enhanced in other states? I mean, I'm here in Vegas, so we don't have any, problems with looking at the odds and doing all of that. And I think it's fun to do that. So I'll be looking at the odds and looking forward to speaking to both of you again soon. I'd like to thank you for being here, bearing with me for the first episode. Maybe next time we'll have, maybe a little bit more, and I'll know where to position myself on this screen. But at any rate, it was a lot of fun, and I look forward to talking with both of you and following following you on Twitter and hearing about what you have to say about the Giants. It'll be interesting to see. Jenna, what do you think? Will the Giants make it to the playoffs?
Oh, this is a hard one because it's so unpredictable. I feel like they're on a little bit of a roll right now, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I mean, the absence of Saquon really hurts me because it's, again, so unpredictable. And Danny Dimes, I mean, how's he doing with that injury? It's so hard to tell. But hey, I'm a New York girl. I am praying for my New York Giants. I hope so. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say yeah.
I have one question for you about the Knicks and Miles Powell. Is he going to go through the G League this year?
Oh my God, all eyes are on him. I mean, I hope so. That's, I'm going to say, yeah, that's the hope. That's the dream, especially with the G League. And again, another topic in itself.
Right.
Just doing
I'm
incredible
writing this down,
things.
by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all these topics and potential conversations. I think it's
Yeah. Their new path league, I mean, they are just really making waves and really bringing these young guys in and giving them actual education about basketball while also, you know, keeping their lives on track. So I think, yeah, I'm going to be optimistic again and say, yeah.
The Knicks are an interesting story. You know, it's ironic because you got the Knicks in the draft. They got Obi Toppin, who's originally from Brooklyn. And then you have Miles Powell, who's originally from New Jersey. We're actually right down the street from where I'm from. And they both went to the Knicks, you know, the big, you know, it's typically reserved for the big stars. And then in Brooklyn, who used to be and for the Brooklyn Nets, who used to be New Jersey, they got the big stars. They got KD and Kyrie. So it's like a switch now. But I think there's a lot to look forward to the Knicks. They're building their team young, and they're building the culture there, I think.
Coming
But it's
back.
good to see the teams that do actually build those teams. You know, there's a lot of teams out there that continually say, oh, we're building our team, we're building our team, we're building our team. But then to actually see a team like, I mean, and again, we can definitely, I hope we have future shows where we talk about things because one thing can lead to another. But it's nice to see, and it's nice to see it. It'd be interesting to talk about even Nets versus Knicks. You know, like, you know, we always have that, like, which team is better and for what reasons and which game would you rather go to? So, and then of course there'll be the drafts that come up.